And so, if our freedom and our lack of self-control produces results that correspond to that nightmare, then we will surrender control. And what's saddest, we won't even wait for the results. Because we'll have plenty of politicians like our liberal friends who will come forward the way Bill Clinton already has. Talking to a group of young people in Virginia, what does he tell them? That if they want safety and security, they'll probably have to give up some of their rights. Age-old equation of tyranny. William Jefferson Clinton doesn't understand it, but Thomas Jefferson did, because he wrote that anyone who would give up some of his rights to secure his safety will end up with neither rights nor safety. And that's the truth of it. But what I want you to focus on, though, my friends, is that we are giving in to these arguments. We are. In every important area of policy where people come forward to reclaim what ought to be their real control, over to money, what are we told? Even when they're arguing about the piddling tax cuts or what they're going to do with the so-called surplus. I got to confess, the surplus argument particularly intrigues me because, well, I don't know. It could be I'm just too simple-minded for politics, as Reagan used to say. But I look at that discussion, and I wonder if we went out and we bought a car, and a few weeks later we got a letter from the dealer, and the dealer told us, we've just been over the books and we found that you overpaid for the car. And we're going to have a meeting tomorrow of the salesmen and the directors to decide how much of the money we're going to send back to you. How many of you would be pleased with that idea? I wonder sometimes how it is we listen patiently while our politicians have debates like that. And maybe we don't understand what's going on. It's just like when they stand in front of us and they're arguing about their tax cuts and how much they're going to give us. Well, my plan gives a family of four $2,000, and my plan gives them $1,800, and so forth. I keep inviting audiences to stand back and just think for a second, what is it exactly they're giving you? What are they giving you? Your own money. That's a good trick. My ancestors clanked around in chains, this is true, but they went us one better because at least their masters had to pay for the chains. Okay? We pay for our own chains. And we listen to them, and then when they invite us to go into the voting booth and be grateful, we do it. We do it. Get down on our knees, thank Massa politician, and go off to vote for them again because they're kind enough to leave us with a little bit of our own money. And now I know myself that the reason for that is clear. The income tax is a system that in principle deprives us of control of all our own money. It gives to the government a preemptive claim to a certain percentage of our income, determined by who? The folks in the government. Well, obviously, that means that they have claim to as much as they want. It means that in principle, when they let us keep any, they're doing us a favor. That's why they talk that way. You've wondered about that, I know. Just like all this business, when they cut taxes, they call it the money that's left in our pockets, they call that a tax expenditure. So you see, when the government leaves money in your pocket, it's spent money on you. I bet you didn't realize that. You thought you earned that money. Didn't realize that it was the result of a largesse from the government, that you had any in your pocket at all. But it's true. It's true. It's not just the way they talk. They talk that way because when we adopted the income tax, we adopted one of the pillars of communism. We adopted a tax system. We adopted a tax system at the national level that turns over control of all the money made and earned in America in principle to the government and takes it from the people. And even when we're talking these piddling tax cuts and we want to try to suggest that maybe we ought to get back a little of that control, what are we told? Well, folks like Mr. Clinton will stand up there again and say, no, wait a minute. We could give the money back to you in the form of tax cuts, but let me tell you why that wouldn't be a good idea, he says. Wouldn't be a good idea because, and then he goes through the standard parade of horribles. It wouldn't be a good idea because the babies would starve. And it wouldn't be a good idea because the elderly people would go without care. It wouldn't be a good idea because folks who come upon hard times would be without help. And why would all this happen? Well, because these government programs would be hurt if you folks get back your own money and have it under your control. what are we buying into when we buy all this liberalism? The heart of it, that purports to want to help folks and do right by them, I don't think there's anybody in this country disagrees with that heart, or at least not many people. I think we are all prone, if somebody comes up to us and is really in need, to try to find a way to meet that need. We always have been. It's one of the hallmarks of this great people. But why is it then that these folks come forward and they say, okay, let's do that, but we ought to use the government to do it? And the question I've asked for many years is why? See, we need to get to the heart of this matter, the real choice between Al Gore and an Alan Keyes, or a Bill Bradley and Alan Keyes. What is it? They're always talking about doing great things with government. And they speak of government as if it's our warm, fuzzy auntie come to take care of us. Why, we heard you were sick, we've come to help. See? But the one problem with government is that if warm, fuzzy auntie comes to the door and asks you for a little help to defray expenses for the latest church project and you say no, auntie has to go to the next house and see if there are less hard-hearted people there. If the tax collector comes to your door and asks you for help in the latest project and you say no, what happens? Well, they'll take the money, they'll take the house, they'll take the liberty, they'll take everything. See, that's the difference between doing things with government and doing things in other ways. Government is coercion. At the heart of government, you can dress it up in any language you want, put any verbiage behind it you want, talk about it in as warm and nurturing terms as you like. The heart of government, coated with whatever velvet glove you want to put on it, is a mailed fist of force and coercion. And I'll tell you, it may be necessary. Human beings, being what we are with our fallen nature and difficulties, we do in fact, need to have some lines drawn where it's clear. Cross that line, do that deed, and the force of power will come against you. The force of this society will be used to get you in line and keep you in line and stop your abuses. That's all right. Our founders were right. They said that government was a reflection on human nature and not a very pleasant one. It's a necessary evil. It's a harsh requirement of our hearts not being where they ought to be